Okay, we're going to learn how to derive the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is really useful. You don't really have to be able to do this derivation, but it can help you understand why the formula works. And there's just a lot of places where it's useful. Well, we start off with the quadratic formula, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If we divide everything by a divided by a is 1. Then we get b over a, dividing by a, and c over a. So we get to that step. Now, deriving the quadratic formula, to get it, we need to complete the square. So we look at the coefficient of x, the linear term, b over a. We take half of it, which is b over 2a, and then we square that. b over 2a times b over 2a. If you square it, you get b squared over 4a squared. So there we are, we just completed the square. And we subtracted so that we don't change the equation. We subtract the exact same thing. Because we completed the square, we can write a bracket, x plus, and then that b over 2a goes right there. When we square it, we get all of this stuff here. So we've completed the square. Now we have minus b squared over 4a squared plus c over a, but we'd like to put this together in order to make the formula work. It's really good. Well, to get a common denominator, you multiply the top and bottom by 4a, so you'll have 4a squared. Well, that'll become 4ac. But you look at this thing here, it's a plus. You're going to have, if we make this one thing over a bracket, we have to make two minuses here. So this becomes b squared minus 4ac. Hey, that's important later on. Okay, what we do is we add b squared minus 4ac to both sides, and it comes over on the right-hand side. We isolate the square. If you remember, when we're working with completing the square, we get the square on one side of the equation. And then if you remember, you square root both sides. And the square goes away, and you get x plus b over 2a. Hey, we're trying to figure out what x is, so we're getting closer to the answer. On this side, we have the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Well, the square root of 4 is easy. That's 2. The square root of a squared is a, so we've got just 2a there. This part in the top, the square root of b squared minus 4ac, that b squared minus 4ac turns out to be something real important. It's called the discriminant. And we work on this thing called the nature of roots. And the discriminant's the key to figuring out the nature of roots. Anyways, we need to know about that. One last thing to do, we subtract b over 2a, and it moves to this side. Well, look, we've got a common denominator here. So we can write the 2a down, and we end up with the formula. This is the only thing you really have to use. You get minus b plus or minus. There's two roots. There's two different answers. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's the quadratic formula. But when you see this a, b, and c, they're not just anything. A is the number in front of x squared, b the number in front of x, and c is the number that's added or subtracted on there. Okay, well, that's how you derive the quadratic formula. Next, we're going to figure out how to use that quadratic formula. So we'll have a video where I explain